Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are jumping headfirst into the very shady world of fake online reviews and the high-tech detectives that platforms are building to hunt them down. So, let's get right into it. Okay, right off the bat, I want you to ask yourself a serious question. When you're scrolling through reviews for, I don't know, a hotel or a new gadget, are you really confident you could spot a fake one? Because it's way, way harder than you think, and I'm about to show you why. Just take a look at this. On the left, we've got the stats for fake reviews, ratings, common words, all that. On the right, the same thing, but for real, genuine reviews. I mean, look at them. They're almost identical, right? Both are super positive, both use the exact same words like great, room, hotel. And that is the problem. This is the camouflage they use to trick us. And that brings us to the absolute core of the issue, what we're calling the camouflage of deception. Because we're not talking about obvious, poorly written spam anymore. Oh no, this is a whole other level. Here's the thing. The research is crystal clear on this. These fake reviews are meticulously crafted to look and sound exactly like the real thing. It's their entire purpose. They're designed to slip right past our mental defenses. So if our own eyes and our own gut feelings can't spot them, well, we're going to need a different kind of detective on the case. And that, of course, is where machine learning comes in. You can think of it like we're training a digital Sherlock Holmes, an algorithm that can see all the tiny, hidden clues that are completely invisible to us. Now, machine learning isn't some magic wand you can just wave at the problem. It's more like a whole toolkit. You've got different approaches for different jobs. There's supervised learning, where you literally show the algorithm examples, saying this one's fake, this one's real. Then you've got the heavier stuff, like deep learning and these new transformer models that try to understand the nuances of language in a much deeper, more human-like way. So here's the million-dollar question. How do you actually teach a machine what to look for? Well, there's a process for that, and it's called feature engineering. It's kind of like telling a detective, listen, don't worry about the wallpaper in the room. I need you to focus on the fingerprints on the doorknob and the footprints by the window. You have to point the algorithm to the clues that actually matter. So let's look at the first set of clues these algorithms are trained to spot. It all comes down to linguistic style. What you're seeing here is that real reviews, the ones labeled R, they sound more human. They use more common words like the, and a, what are called stop words, and a bit more punctuation. It points to a more natural, off-the-cuff way of talking. The fakes can be just a little too polished. Okay, clue number 2 is all about the emotional vibe. The analysis found that fake reviews are often just a bit too enthusiastic, a little over-the-top positive, And they also tend to repeat certain words or phrases a bit more often. It's like they're trying just a little too hard to sell you on something. And that's an emotional exaggeration an algorithm can spot a mile away. And the third major clue is complexity. Turns out, real reviews are usually a little longer and more detailed. Which, when you think about it, makes perfect sense. If you're describing a real trip, a real experience, you have more to say. Fakes, on the other hand, often feel a little thin, a little simpler. So yeah, you can train a machine to spot all these patterns. But which machine is best for the job? And believe me, the answer is going to surprise you. So, we've got these powerful digital detectives, and we're teaching them to look for all these subtle clues. You'd naturally assume that the newest, biggest, most complex models would be the best at this, right? Well, about that. The research found a pretty surprising twist. So let's set up the big showdown. In one corner, you have the old-school traditional models like support vector machines and logistic regression. Think of them as the seasoned veterans. They're simpler, and they rely on being told exactly what clues to look for. And in the other corner, you have the new kid on the block, deep learning. These are the complex neural networks that are supposed to be so smart, they can figure out the clues all by themselves. And here it is, the verdict. A major study found that the simpler, old-school models consistently did a better job at spotting fake reviews. The seasoned veterans absolutely schooled the high-tech rookies. So the big question is, why? How did that happen? Well, the answer really comes down to the data. See, deep learning models are incredibly data hungry. They need mountains and mountains of examples to learn properly. When you give them a smaller, more specialized data set, they tend to overfit. It's like they're not really learning the subject, they're just memorizing the answers to one specific test. But the simpler models, they shined because they were given those specific hand-picked clues. It just goes to show you, sometimes a detective with a magnifying glass beats a spy satellite. But this surprise victory for the simpler models actually reveals a much bigger, more critical reality. Even the best of these algorithms have blind spots. They are incredibly powerful for sure, but they are not perfect, not by a long shot. Researchers have run into some major hurdles. First, there's the whole needle in a haystack problem. The vast majority of reviews online are real, which makes the few fakes incredibly difficult to find. Second, these models are specialists. An algorithm that's a genius at spotting fake hotel reviews is totally lost when you ask it to look at reviews for a toaster. The rules are just different. Then there's the simple fact that there isn't a lot of good, verified data to train these things on. And finally, some of the most advanced models are just too slow and expensive to use in real time. And just when you thought it couldn't get more complicated, it does. There's a new and honestly pretty alarming threat on the horizon. The same AI technology that's being used for detection is now being used to create fake reviews. We're talking about algorithmically generated fakes that are more sophisticated and harder to detect than anything a human could write. It's a vicious cycle. Okay, so after all of that, what does this all mean for us? For the average person just trying to figure out what to buy or where to go? What is the big takeaway for the future of online trust? Well, the first thing we have to understand is that this isn't a problem that just gets solved one day. It's a constant, ongoing technological arms race. As the good guys build better detectors, the bad guys build better fakes, and that cycle just keeps going. And that leads us to probably the most crucial point of this whole explainer. Machine learning is an absolutely powerful, essential ally in this fight. But it is not, and I repeat, not a perfect shield. It has limitations, it has blind spots, and it's up against an enemy that is constantly evolving. Which really leaves us with one final, pretty heavy question to think about. In an age where AI can create and detect deception with terrifying skill, what does trust online even mean anymore? What makes something authentic? Honestly, that's something we're all going to have to figure out together. Thanks for tuning into The Explainer.